Okay, welcome to the new episode, starting with more serious material and this time a little planning. Even did a little bit of setup, doing the camera a little differently. Some of you may notice the quality of not only the video but the audio is different from the first couple videos. Is because between then and now, my little handy cam that I had said was sitting on the little cell phone thing as my camera has decided to stop working in a reliable manner. So now I'm using the netbook that I reviewed in the first episode 0, the webcam and the built-in microphone. That is now my recording equipment. So you get a kind of a field test as I review the little netbook. It's actually pretty good. So first off, a little lightheartedness, because this is about entertainment. DC Universe Online, Momorpaga superhero video game, is going to be free to play starting October. I know I'm looking forward to it because I kind of liked City of Heroes, City of Villains, but as some of you may know, I'm not rich, so therefore free is good. Free is very good, so I'm really looking forward to it and kind of getting into it. Even though I'm really not into much Momorpaga, I'm going to give this one a shot. Honestly, I played Star Trek Online for a while, was actually looking forward to paying that. I just got bored. Same thing with World of Warcraft when I started to play that thing. I played that for a while and just got bored. I mean, if your game isn't fun, it's not much of a game. I know there's bunches of people out there who play it. I'm going to get hate mail, but hey, it's the name of the show! So, yeah. Some games aren't for everyone. Heck, just like most of the games that I play aren't for everyone. Chromehounds, it's a love it or hate it kind of game. I loved it. Most people hated it. Mech Duels, obviously many more people hated it than loved it because there was not very many people playing it at all. Hello, can I help you? Anyway, but enough sidetracking. Today we're getting into the meat of it. This is coming on the heels of the release of the Blu-ray edition of the Star Wars Saga. Now, I'm sorry, with the horribleness that is the Twilight Saga, if you attach Saga to anything right now, it just makes it sound bad. George Lucas is at it again! Oh my god! He's added more scenes. The Ewoks blink! Yeah, fuck you! I'm sorry, folks. Okay, tell you what. I'm going to read a quote. Yes, we've done research for this episode. People who alter or destroy works of art and our cultural heritage for profit or as an exercise of power are barbarians. And if the laws of the United States continue to condone this behavior, history will surely classify us as a barbaric society. Little late! The preservation of our cultural heritage may not seem to be as politically sensitive an issue as when life begins or when it should be appropriately terminated, but it is important because it goes to the heart of what sets mankind apart. Creative expression is at the core of our humanness. Art is distinctly a human endeavor. We must have respect for it if we are to have any respect for the human race. Kind of deep thoughts. He continues. These current defacements are just the beginning. Today, engineers with their computers can add color to black and white movies, change the soundtrack, speed up the pace, and add or subtract material to the philosophical tastes of the copyright holder. Tomorrow, more advanced technology will be able to replace actors with fresher faces or alter dialogue and change the movement of the actor's lips to match. It will soon be possible to create a new original negative, original with quotes around it, with whatever changes or alterations the copyright holder of the moment desires. The copyright holders so far have not been completely diligent in preserving the original negatives of films they control. In order to reconstruct old negatives, many archivists have had to go to Eastern Bloc countries where American films have been better preserved. Okay, that basically is dealing with like old classic movies and keeping them as they were presented in the theaters. And it's very interesting because this person is obviously making a plea to not only to preserve old films as they were made, historical films, films with significance, and for future generations to be able to see those films as presented to the public. That quote was by George Lucas. Well, George, what can I say? You kind of went, you turned into a bad guy, according to what you said yourself. You have taken your original movie and have altered scenes, several scenes. Han shot first, you fuck! Soundtrack, stuff like that. Ewoks blinking. Okay, once again, a little research comes into play, because I've searched this online. I'm about to do something here. I am going to compare George Lucas, his filmmaking history from Star Wars to Star Wars, all 6 films, and relate him in the Star Wars mythos. They're kind of playing him. I don't know of anyone else that has done this, so I'm wondering why no one hasn't. So, well, here we go. And I've actually explained this to a few people, and they're kind of like, wow. So, okay. George Lucas, when he first started out, he was an unknown, well, sort of known director. He'd done American Graffiti. It's a pretty good movie. Haven't seen it, heard good things about it. Which kind of greenlit him to do Star Wars, which is something he wanted to do. So, let's just cut through it. He made Star Wars. We'll go back if we need to, but he made Star Wars. Did things differently from everybody else. Created a film no one had ever seen before. Created something. He drew from several influences, which other people can go into. I know I can poke holes in the Star Wars story just as well as anyone else, so I'm not going to bother. But he created something, obviously, with the first Star Wars movie that was amazing. People sat up, people took notice. It was a masterpiece of science fiction, fantasy, storytelling, character, plot development, character arc. Everything you want to see in a movie, you saw in Star Wars. That's why it was such a great film. And when the movie was released, many of you noticed famously that the names of the actors, sometimes in other films you'll see this, did not play at the beginning of the film. You know, Mark Hamill, you know. Instead, he did the name of the movie, the big famous crawl of the words up thing, and then right into the movie. At this point, George Lucas was part of the Directors Guild. After the film was released, George Lucas was fined, I believe, $12 million for violating the rules of the Directors Guild. You were not allowed to omit the actors' names from the beginning of the film. George Lucas paid the fine and left the Directors Guild. Okay, so big, bold step. He, at that point, and here comes you're going to see it here in a second. He was a rebel. He was rebelling against the norms. the way the big machine of Hollywood was doing things, kind of like an empire. So he was a rebel, and he gathered around him for the first movie like-minded individuals who he bounced ideas off of, kind of like an alliance. I mean, because honestly, if George had done it all by himself, Luke Skywalker would have been 60 years old. C-3PO would have sounded like a used car salesman. And Han Solo would have looked a lot like Greedo. That was your movie. Can you imagine if Can you imagine if George was, left to his own devices to make Star Wars by himself? He didn't. He had a bunch of people around him who were just as passionate as he was, and gave him ideas and said, hey, that's nifty. Well, hey, let's try this. Let's make this character this. Let's do this. Story writing, storytelling. I mean, he's even said himself, what's this other, I pulled up a bunch of quotes from him, just so I can beat him over the head with his own quotes. I can't find it now. But basically, he's like, I'm not good at writing scripts, but I'm a good script writer. No, he's not. But anyway, he was collaborating with a bunch of people to make a dream, and that's what he did. Those first, he ran himself ragged. During the first movie, he was the director, he was the producer, he did everything. He was helping with, set and everything. He ran himself nearly ill. I think he was ill for a while, just from the ordeal that was creating the first Star Wars movie. So much so that for the next 2 Star Wars movies that came out, he was not the director. He handed that job off to someone else, and basically was the producer. So he was, quite literally Robin Hood and his merry men making this movie. He was, a badass. He was a man alone, and yet he had his group of people. So, he was a Luke Skywalker-like figure who had found a rebellion, an alliance, to ally himself to, and they created this masterpiece that was the Star Wars original trilogy, which is now known as A New Hope. And then he took what he learned. He wasn't comfortable. He wasn't safe. This was dangerous filmmaking. I mean, not like he was dodging bullets or anything like that, but this was, he was in uncharted territory, but yet he plowed on because he believed in what he was doing. Other people around him believed in him as well, and that's what got Star Wars made, was the people. It was a group of people who wanted this to happen, and it did, and it was amazing. With the next film, he created probably the best Star Wars movie ever made, The Empire Strikes Back. Once again, doing things in film that most people didn't do. The bad guys won. That doesn't happen in Hollywood movies, at least not back then. Or it was some sort of irony piece or whatever. Bad guys don't win. Bad guys kicked ass. Bad guys stomped on those people and said, nah! And at the end, they're just picking up the pieces going, oh crap, what do we do now? We've got a kind of a plan, but man, we just got stomped. And the characters were developed. I mean, who can't remember, having seen Star Wars and The Empire Strikes Back, the arc that was Han Solo and Leia Organa? That was something to watch, just to see that develop from the original hate-filled meetings that they had, that they did, It's not something I have to explain to you people because you've seen it. It leapt off the screen and made you want to watch these people. You were very interested in seeing how this how this was going to work out. And people didn't see at the beginning that, Han and Leia were going to be an item. It was just kind of snuck up on you. And, development, character, story arc. That's what we have. So Empire was great. A lot of people didn't like Return of the Jedi. I kind of did. Yeah, it was a pretty weak movie because they were really stretching it near the end. You know, because if you look at, you know, the other reviewers have seen this, but I'm going to say it anyway. You know, the first movie ended with, you know, going after the Death Star. The second movie was, you know, kind of a branching off of things. You know, Luke versus Vader, and the rest of the gang versus whatever they were going up against. You know, and kind of a diverging. Well, with the third movie, there were three things going on. There was the battle for the satellites, for the shield generator. There was Luke, Vader, and Palpatine on the Death Star. And then there was the space battle going on, too. So there were three things. So a lot of people didn't like being jerked around with the story like that. But if you kept up, it was still a pretty interesting story. You know, it wasn't a bad movie. Return of the Jedi was a really good movie. Not as great as the other two, but it was a nice finisher to that series, and it was really good. And George Lucas, you know, in triumph, his trilogy was made, and it was good. Through all this, because of his major success, George Lucas established and created Lucasfilm, established and created Skywalker Sound, which was, you know, a recording studio, you know, orchestra, sound effects, things like that. So he had that part covered. Lucasfilm to make the films, Skywalker Sound to do the sound. And then he also created Industrial Light and Magic, which everyone knows does special effects. So now he's established this empire. He doesn't have to farm his tasks out to anyone else. He has everything at his beck and call. Okay, now fast forward to the prequels. Oh, the fucking prequels. I'm not, like I said, it's like I'm not going to review this Transformers movies because they've been done. I'm not going to review the prequels as much as I'd like to, because it's, for one thing, it's too damn easy to tear those stupid movies apart. If you want to see good review on the Star Wars prequels, go to Plinkett Reviews, P-L-I-N, PlinkettReviews.com, and he just rips them apart. He says pretty much everything I would say and more regarding the prequels, because they are horrible. Horrible. I mean, I will kind of quote something that he did in there. I mean, here's a little test to see, you know, about character. You are given the name of a character, and you must describe that character, but you cannot use the person's name, the person's occupation, what they did, or their appearance, such as clothing or antennas or whatever. Han Solo, and you can just rogue, thief. Well, he was the thief. That's occupation. Gambler, roguish, rakish, ladies' man. Da 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 da. You can just go on just naming off, describing the character of Han Solo, without describing that he was a smuggler and a pirate, and the ladies liked to look at it. And he was kind of scruffy looking. Okay, now, same challenge with the prequels. Queen Amidala. Having a hard time with that one, aren't you? Okay, try this again. C-3PO. Skittish, frightened, afraid, nervous, chattery. You can go on and on and on describing C-3PO. Okay, again, from the prequels. Qui-Gon Jinn. I'm sorry? Oh, that's right. You can't think of anything! No character development. No actual characters. There were no characters in the prequels. No characters. Characters have a backstory. Characters have an arc. Characters have a story. There were no characters in the prequels! And I've just scared my cat. The films were a wreck. Horrible dialogue. Horrible acting. And the thing is, I've seen some of these actors who were in the prequels in other things. Like there was a movie called Push, starring the guy who played Anakin in the last two prequels. He's a damn good actor. That movie sucked, but he shined in that film. He's a good actor. I mean, we know from the Twilight Saga, if your source material is horrible, there's really not a whole lot you can do with them. Plus, if you're a crappy actor too, well, you get the Twilight Saga. And the actors had nothing to work with. So, I've made the analogy of George Lucas during the first three movies. A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. He was a rebel amongst rebels, leading a rebel alliance to create magic. To create a new something that everyone else could cling to and help for and go forward and say, you know, it's going to be a brighter day now that we can see some good... Not that there were bad movies back then. I mean, there were always going to be bad movies, but, you know, you looked forward to stuff that George touched and knew it was going to be awesome. You know, you just looked forward to that. You had hope for the future. A new hope. Anyway, yeah. Sorry, I had to. But now we're to the prequels. If you have the DVDs or whatever, and you go to the prequels and you look at those, look at the making of on the prequels, and you will see, especially the scene where they've just screened. Once again, Plinkett's done this. If you see the scene where they just have screened the finished product of The Phantom Menace, they look around. They look like someone has stuck a spear in their chest and they have no idea where the fuck just... Oh, shit. Everyone looked around at each other. Everyone in that screening room, George included, had an oh shit moment. They're like, oh fuck. What have we done? No. No. But even they realize, I mean, look at the scene. Go into the making of and look at, and George is even like, it's too much. Hands to his face, just jawed. He knows it sucks. He's not stupid. George knows his own movie sucks. And if okay, here's what's happened. Once again, looking at the making of these films, George isn't out in the field anymore. Well, except for the Dune scene. George is most of the time in his studio, in his little chair, with his little screens in front of him and his minions scattered around him, doing his thing. And I mean, if you watch the first movie, the making of, he is in the trenches. He is doing shit. He's getting dirty. He's making himself sick making this movie. Now you watch The Phantom Menace. Oh, thank you. That's my coffee. Thanks. Action. He's putting forth barely any effort. Granted, he's an old guy now, and he probably deserves to sit in a comfy chair, but I'm sorry. He's now the Emperor. He has become Palpatine. He has become the only voice that will be heard in making the Star Wars films. I mean, once again, going back to the making of, if you watch him going in to see stuff that people have made that he's asked them to make, it's all his idea. He's not accepting any input from anyone else. He just simply says, make this creature, it does this, I'm writing the script. There's no one he's bouncing a script off of. No one's giving him ideas. Even that Rick guy, his second in command or whatever, is not questioning him. He surrounded himself with yes men, his loyal Imperial troops. No one, seriously, the Emperor has no clothes, and no one has the balls to tell him, hey, look, this shit sucks. No one questions him, because he is George Lucas. You've become the Emperor, George. And the Emperor was in charge of the bad guys. And you know what they made? Misery for the galaxy that they were in. I'm sorry, geek moment. I'm talking about Star Wars. It's a geek moment. This whole thing's a geek moment. He's not accepting new ideas. He didn't bounce this whole script idea off of anyone. He just wrote it's like he wrote a first draft and just said, we're going with it. And they filmed it. They made the special effects. They did the music. They didn't question. Nobody questioned. Okay. To kind of parallel this to what should have happened, let's go to the Star Trek universe. Gene Roddenberry created it. He was the man. Much like George Lucas was with Star Wars. He was the man. The man, the man. Gene Roddenberry guided his ship through the galaxy very well. But eventually, it came to a point where he wasn't as involved anymore. In fact, it got to a point where Star Trek was taken away from him. When it got to Generations, the first crossover movie between the two generations, his idea was to have Spock go back in time and shoot President Kennedy. That would have been the film. But instead we got Kirk and Picard riding around on horses. Once again, I refer you to Plinkett reviews because that movie sucked too. But still, but even so, granted not a great example, but you have to realize in that context, Star Trek didn't belong to Gene anymore. It belonged to all of us. It belonged to the people working on it. It belonged to the actors acting the parts. It wasn't just one man. George Lucas, throughout this entire process, especially near the end, less so in the beginning, because like I said, he had creative input from other people and they made this great film and whatnot. But with the prequels, he was the only voice being heard. And he can't write. He can't write dialogue. It's painful to watch some of this dialogue in the prequels. There's some stupid shit going on through that whole movie. It's just horrible. The movies are so horrible. Someone needs to step up and tell George, look, this isn't yours anymore. Yeah, you created it, and we're grateful. We are thankful that you created this amazing thing. It's great. But Star Wars isn't yours anymore. It belongs to all of us. Here, I doubt George is even paying attention or watching this stuff because I'm just an internet reviewer. I don't really have pull, say, anything like that. I'm not. But you know what? George, if you're listening, here is your chance to be the hero. Here is your shot to do something. Hell, Michael Bay apologized for Transformers 2. George. Oh God, George. Declare the prequels non-canon. Just do it. Be a hero. Do it. Just do it. You will be a hero. You will be the good guy again. You can be part of the Rebel Alliance again. You're the Emperor. No! You've ruined Star Wars. No! Ugh. But you see what... If there was any thought given to this at all before the whole prequel thing got started, we wouldn't be here. Can you imagine if the prequels were as good or better than the original trilogy? Can you imagine what kind of a world we'd be in? Because we're in a world of crappy movies. There's shit everywhere. It's horrible. Prince of Persia. Ah! Oh my God. Scorpion King. Why, Dwayne Johnson? Why? Oh God. There, I could go on and on and on about crappy movies. And we look to these great directors, George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, you know, things like that, to save us from these crappy... You haven't. I mean, come on. 2 words. Crystal Skull. Fuck you! You ruined! Ruined! Indiana Jones. Ruined it! You both did! George and Steven, both of you got together and made crap! It's time for you guys to either step up or step aside. Because right now, all we can do is look at your stuff as an example of what not to do. I mean, how'd you let that go? Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is George went from being a hero to the villain. He became the bad guy. He became his own bad guy. And it's inexcusable. I don't know. I doubt this will solve anything. I doubt this will make anything better. This is just me going off on a rant. But I mean, he even, like that quote I just read at the beginning of all this. Now he's going back to the original trilogy and he's altering it. He's putting in shit like it was in the first prequel. Throwing shit at the screen doesn't make a good movie. You've said so yourself. I mean, if you're relying on special effects, you're not telling a story. The whole movie was special effects, you fuck! And now we've got Ewoks that blink. Yeah, that improved the movie. Adding in lines and God. I will not be buying the Blu-ray version of the saga. If someone sends me a copy, I'm gonna break it. Because I don't want it. It's horrible. In fact, I have spent the past couple months looking for unaltered copies of the original Star Wars. Every time I download a copy or look for a copy, it's the goddamn special edition. With all the shit that's corrected. Where Greedo shoots and we see Jabba the Hutt for the first time where we shouldn't see him at all. And, oh my God. You've become your own bad guy, George. But, I don't know. I hope I brought some clarity to some of this. I kind of doubt I have. I mean, I'm just a guy watching movies. And I'm looking at what's supposed to be our shining beacons, and I am seeing shit. Granted, Monday night quarterbacking, but you shouldn't have let this go. You had opportunities. Instead, we've got the prequels. They're bad. You were such a good guy, George, and now the Blu-ray was the final punch to the balls. It's like, oh, you're too stupid to appreciate this. Here's we're gonna throw some. No, I'm sorry. No. No. Anyway, that's the show. I'm really tired. That one was a little rough. But hopefully we'll have some better stuff to deal with on the next show. So have fun out there. Hopefully I see you on DC Universe Online. Got a couple other free games I'm looking at to kind of review for you guys. And have fun out there. See some good movies. Heck, I'm in the middle of watching Pleasantville right now. Kind of cleanse the palate. Having to deal with all this Star Wars prequel bullshit. Oh boy. Have fun out there.